Hello, everyone. Good morning, buenos dias, buenas tardes, depending on where you are tuning in from. Welcome to Cafecito with HACE, where we tune in live on LinkedIn every Wednesday. This year, HACE celebrates their 40th anniversary of positively impacting the American workplace by cultivating the pipeline of Latino talent and providing Latino professionals the insight, access, and support to be successful in their careers. A few updates for us. We want you to join us for a special recruitment series for Latinas in the workplace on December 8th. We'll add that link in the chat if you are interested. We'll be discussing uh, the important topic of Equal Pay Day for Latinas. And in case you missed it, we kicked off our 100K goal to award 40 scholarships for Latino students. We can use your support. We'll add that link in the chat as well. So thank you for joining us. Please let us know in the chat how you like your cafecito or beverage of choice and where you are tuning in from. I'm tuning in from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We are bracing ourselves for a hurricane right now, so prayers to my Floridians out there. Today we have a special chat with Daniel Argueta from Morningstar about his experience with his ERG and priorities for 2023. So Daniel, welcome. Thank you for being with us this morning or afternoon. And let us know how you like your cafecito or beverage of choice and where you are tuning in from.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me. So for my beverage of choice, I actually go with orange juice in the morning. I do have my cafecito mug though. I reserve coffee just for when I have bread to dip into. But aside from that, mostly orange juice. And I am tuning in from Chicago.
Nice. It's nice and cool, or is it warm and then it's going to get cool? Yes.
Yes, it's a bit warmer than it should be for November, but I'm not complaining.
Yes, we're actually coming in on Monday for our staff retreat, and I hear it's going to be 25 degrees. So
Oof, that'll be rough.
I got to get my coat and mittens ready.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here with us. I'm enjoying a cafecito with steamed oat milk and some brown sugar. So thank you again, and let's get started. So at Morningstar, you are the global president of Viva, which is your Latino Hispanic ERG. What are some initiatives that the ERG has prioritized for this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the main things, I mean, to start off, right, Viva is a newer ERG. We've been around just for a few years, as opposed to one of the other ERGs in Morningstar who have been around for 5, 7, maybe even 10 years. Some of them we've been around for like 3 or 4. So we're still kind of getting everything together, making sure that we're up and running. So one of the main things that we prioritized for this year is one has been the expansion of our ERG. So last year we opened our first chapter in Madrid, aside from Chicago, in Madrid. And then this year we were able to expand that to London and to New York City as well. We are also looking next year to expand more to the West Coast and open one in Seattle. So there's some exciting news coming down that way. And then aside from that, we've also been trying to build our support network. So we were able to get an executive sponsor. Our chief revenue officer has actually decided to come on board with Viva and be our executive sponsor, which we think is very vital for any ERG to have someone behind those closed doors of the executive leadership team advocating for us, making sure that our voices are heard, making sure that our needs are being met. So I would say those are the 2 main priorities that we really went full steam ahead for 2022. And looking ahead for 2023, we're working on keeping that steam and that momentum going. So even though we were able to increase our membership by a very significant amount this past year, for next year, we're looking at what are ways to keep them all engaged. What are ways to bring them all up, making sure that we get more people helping to plan events, not just attending, making sure that we get more people to run for leadership positions as well, right? So how do we engage all those new members that we just made this past year?
Absolutely, Madrid. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
What is your background?
Yeah, so I actually studied chemical engineering at Case Western Reserve in Cleveland with a minor in business management.
Nice. And how has your active participation with Viva enhanced your professional career?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the main things from Viva, I was able to extend my network a lot, right? From my day job, I do get to meet a lot of people in my department, right? But from Viva, I've been able to meet so many more people outside of my department, right? Like now I have um, regular meetings with our chief revenue officer, who like not only knows my name, but knows Viva, knows what we want, knows what we need. Um, I've also been able to make a lot of connections in our marketing department, right? In our communications department. One of the things that I like to boast a little bit about is with all those connections and with everyone I know now from HR, and everywhere else, I get to hear a lot of things before they're actually set to the rest of the company, right? So I get to help Viva prepare beforehand and kind of embrace for some of those changes that come along.
Wonderful. And so we would like to actually open it up to the audience and see if they have any questions for you. Let's see. Oh, we have folks from Chicago, Sarasota, Florida, Michigan. Oh, it gets chilly there too. I have good morning tuning in from Houston, Texas. We are the only Latino owned appliance repair academy in the US and Canada. Awesome. We teach technical field of in-home appliance repair service. Here to serve you and praying for you all in Florida. Thank you. So what are you most looking forward to 2023? You have a lot ahead of you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one of the good things, getting an ERG that's still a little bit new is that there's a lot of room to growth. And there's a lot of things that we can do. There's a lot of directions that we can take, right? I think one of the most vital things, and maybe one of the most challenging things, for a new ERG is garnering that support that you need to keep growing. Um, I feel that Viva is in a pretty good spot now with that support already behind us, and getting a lot of steam to move forward. So I'm really looking forward to just increasing the size of our ERG, increasing the reach of our ERG, right? Something that I was actually talking to you a little bit backstage before this started is Viva now has a voice in some of the decisions that are made at a company level at Morningstar, right? So how some DEI training is done, some of the partnerships that we do, right? Like, of course, we have HACE, which is also a newer partnership, but has already proven to be very fruitful for us. We've been hiring a lot of Latinos out of HACE, and that success that we've had with you is actually something that is allowing us to ask Morningstar to give us more budget in order to do more sponsorships, in order to attend more events, right? So we want to be able to attend more career fairs next year, Latino career fairs. One of the ones we're actually looking for is the SHEP, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers career fair for next year. We know we want to add that to our docket aside from the ASIC career fairs that we already attend, in order to increase that pool of Latino applicants that we have. We are able to put some names forth. So I know Morningstar right now is actually looking for a chief diversity officer. And as part of Viva, as part of that support that we've been gathering, we've been able to have some impact, on some of those recommendations, get some Latino names in there. So I'm looking forward, to seeing the impact that Viva can have at a Morningstar level, making sure that our voices are heard.
Wonderful. And we have a question here from Christina. She says she's the chair of ERG and they are also expanding globally. Can you talk about your strategy to expand overseas?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Christina. That's great to hear that you're expanding globally. We definitely need these ERGs everywhere we can have them. I will tell you, it's no easy feat, right? Especially when you're not there to see some of the things happening. I think one of the main things that I have found very helpful is find someone you can trust over there. Find someone that can be your eyes, your ears, your hands, and get in and do the dirty work that needs to be done. There's only so much that I can do from this side of the pond, especially with the time zones being so radically different. I'm not even awake sometimes for like some of their events, and vice versa, them for hours. Um, Something that we have found very helpful is we try to plan events, at least the hybrid events. We try to plan them all in the morning here in Chicago. So they're in the afternoon over in Europe. And there can be some crossover, right? And some of those events we can have one event and have everyone join. So that's been a very helpful thing that we've been able to implement. And that helps members in the US get to know members in Europe, and that's something that's very important to keep everyone engaged, because what people want from ERGs is to feel that they're getting something out of it, right? Like they're getting a sense of community, that they're getting a new family inside their workplace. And being able to connect all these people across the world gives that sense of belonging. So I would say that's one of the main things, and once you find that person that you trust over there, have brainstorming sessions with them, but let them run wild with their ideas. I found someone in Madrid that I trusted completely to carry out the vision of Viva out in Spain. And she has been doing an amazing job, and none of this would have been possible without her.
That's great advice. And then any advice you have for any upcoming or new ERGs?
Yeah, I will say find an executive sponsor as soon as you can. It took us about almost 3 years to find a good and effective executive sponsor. And a lot of the things that we were hitting walls back then that we're able to push forward now would have been a lot easier if we've had this executive sponsor from the beginning, right? So I will say push for that. Also, don't think that the executive sponsor is just doing you a favor. Like you are doing them as much as favor as they are doing you by having them as your executive sponsor, right? Because if you do things right, if your ERG grows, if your ERG is very well respected within your company, that reflects very well on them, right? That executive can wear that as a badge of honor of like, hey, I am helping build this. So it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street, right? So making sure that you understand that, making sure that you are giving to them as much as they're giving to you, right? So as an example, for our executive sponsor, obviously, like we make him look really good behind closed doors of that executive leadership team. Like I know he can brag about us, and we do really great things. Everyone at Morningstar knows who Viva is, right? They know about our events, they know everything that we do. But also we include them in a lot of things, right? So like let's say for HACE, when we attended the conference earlier this year in Chicago, we gave that executive a couple spots and tell them like, hey, send people from your business unit so that they can start growing in DEI leadership, right? When we go to career fairs, we make sure that we talk to our executive sponsors like, hey, do you have any open roles you want us to highlight? And we come back with resumes and we're like, hey, here are some options that you can have for these roles, right? So making sure that we make their life easier as much as they're making our lives easier is very vital. But yeah, I can't stress enough how important an executive sponsor is. So I would say that would be my one piece of advice for upcoming ERGs.
Great, thank you. And then from Anita, she says, long time no see. Aside from social events, how has Viva given back to the community, or are there plans of focusing on volunteering, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Anita, really nice to see you again. Funny to meet you here. But yeah, so there are several ways that Viva has given back. I know sometimes when things happen in Latin America, to give you an example, last year there were some natural disasters that happened in Honduras, and I know Viva, we kind of put some fundraisers in place. We gathered money, we gathered supplies that we're able to send over and ship over there and distribute with the Honduran government. So that was one of the bigger things that we've done. We've also partnered with other local organizations here. So I know for Hispanic Heritage Month, we actually had a sweepstakes as well. where all the money that we were able to raise, we donated to an organization that is helping underrepresented minorities in tech. And I know Morningstar also has a volunteering week, which actually happened earlier this year. And Viva, we went to, I forget the name of the place that we went to, but all of you have volunteered at a specific event for half a day, in which we were sorting through clothes. We're sorting through all of the donations that they get in order to send around in the Chicago area. So there are definitely a lot of things that we're doing, a lot of things that we want to keep doing. But the sense of community is something that, as you know, it never gets lost in the Latino community, right? So we want to make sure that we're giving back as much as we can.
Perfect. And then from Lysandra, can you share ways that you collaborate with other ERG groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think something that we've done really well this year as well is we've done co-sponsoring sessions with almost every other ERG at Morningstar. And what that means is that we either come up with an idea together of an event that we want to do, and we do them together, and we bring in memberships from both sides, right, to make sure that we increase that network, that people, I mean, it's great to build that community only within Vivo, right, and we need it, but we also need them to start communicating with other ERGs, right, and build a wider network. So that's kind of what we want to go with the co-sponsoring. So either we come up with an idea and we do it together, or let's say for Black History Month, we went to our Black, Caribbean, and African group. They're called BCA, and we offered to co-sponsor some other events, and help them with logistics, help them with budget, help them bring more attendance into the events. And I know reciprocally, they even did the same thing for us for Hispanic Heritage Month, right? And we partner like that with a lot of ERGs, not just that one. Something also that Morningstar does really well is that we have an ERG called Allies. And the whole purpose of that ERG is to help other ERGs get their events, help them logistically, help them with budget, help people get in the door. So I know every single ERG has probably partnered with that Allies ERG at some point this year as well. So make sure you're connecting with leaders from other ERGs. Make sure you're bouncing ideas off of each other, right? Because at the end of the day, we're stronger together.
Great, thank you. And from Oswaldo, they're new to this conversation and very first tuning in. Please explain ERG and how and where this can be implemented in our company. Is it for any company, or how does it help?
Yeah, absolutely. So ERG, Employee Resource Group, right? I know different companies have different names for it, but that is how we call it, which is, I know some companies say affinity groups as well. They're all basically the same thing. I think this is a very vital thing to be implemented in any company, right? I don't think there's a specific industry or a specific company where this would be good at. The one thing you do need to see is that there are enough of you in order to create an affinity group, right? Something that I've seen happen in other companies is if there's not enough Latinos or if there's not enough people of color, to create that one specific affinity group, they will create one big pool of affinity group and basically have everyone in there, right? Because you need to coordinate more in order to keep growing, right? If you don't have these groups pushing for growth, if you don't have these groups pushing for change, if you're the only Latino in your company and there's no one really advocating for that to change, you're never going to have enough to create your own affinity group, right? So if you are the only Latino and you have to grab the only other Asian person and grab the only other African American, build an affinity group within yourselves, right? And push for that change so that hopefully years down the road that can split. And you're like, okay, now we're 20 Latinos, we can have our own group, right? But I think it's very vital, in order to make sure that our voices are heard, because a lot of times they get lost in space. So that's how I think it helps. Not only does it help the community as a whole, but I also think it really does help us feel more included, feel more like we belong in our companies. I know I found most of the people that I call friends from Viva, and that I can get to hang around and do a lot of things both in and outside of work. So
Absolutely. I love that. It's like expanding your familia.
yes, exactly.
Wonderful. So lastly, what are you hopeful for, or a positive story that you'd like to share that gives you hope for the rest of the year?
Oh, well, year's almost ending. But I would say for me specifically is and what kind of what always gives me hope and what keeps me going is always family, you know, and whether that's not only blood family, right? Obviously, that's very important. And actually, we expanded our family earlier this year. My brother had a little girl,
Oh,
which was awesome. So that definitely gives you hope for the future. Makes me want to change things even more for the generations to come. But also for those family members who are not blood relatives, right? Like those friends that are always there. I think that's what really keeps me going. That community.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, everyone who is on with us today, for tuning in, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Absolutely. Thanks so
All
much
right.
for having me. Thanks, everyone.